Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be talking about reaching during the start or taking short steps during your start. I'm going to start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab.
Reach your individual goals. We don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become.
All right, so this is really one of the most important things that we could talk about when it comes to your get off, kind of your first 3 steps, first 4 steps maybe. Really, the concept is, should we be reaching? Should we be really picking up a lot of distance with our front side mechanics, or really how do we cover more ground when it comes to those first 3 steps? And athlete on the right is just really fast, really quick guy going into his freshman year in high school and already running a sub 7 in the 60. And we could just see a lot of natural length as he's going through these first couple steps. What stands out to me is he's not trying to get a ton of height in his knees as he's going through, but he's really trying to get out as much as he can. And so this is an easy 4 steps in 5 yards, right? So we're looking here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have a athlete on the left. And the thing about this is, and the reason I picked this one is because you could just tell he's a very strong guy, right? Has a lot of force within his lower body, like 400 pounds, something like that. It's a lot of weight. Obviously, this is more of this is a 40 start here. But what we're seeing is, 1, not very much distance per step, right? So 2, 3, 4, 5 steps barely gets to that mark, right? So here on the right, 4 steps easily gets to 5 yards, easily gets past 5 yards, in comparison to 5 steps barely gets to 5 yards. And the question really goes down to, how do we get there? Did we get there by reaching? I would say no, right? He didn't really try to reach out in front a ton, but really was effective with the backside mechanics, right? So what ends up being, I think, the most important thing when it comes to your ability to build speed is, what are we doing with our feet on the backside? So we could see first action here really comes around a good amount, doesn't get very good action with his arms, really stays down too much through that upper body. Okay, we want to be able to see a little bit more height there. Okay, and then even as that back foot's coming off the ground, we could see the foot coming way too high back behind. And so, if you're watching this right now, what I want you to be able to really conceptualize here is, and the point of the real video is, understand, how can I get more distance per step? Is it going to be from really reaching, right, and getting my foot out in front of me, or is it going to come from striking the ground? I'm going to make the argument that, and we talked about this in the past, that it comes from how well we're able to strike the ground. And when you're able to effectively pull that foot back underneath your hip, what that does is that makes it so now the angle that your foot's striking the ground at is going to be able to help you propel forward. Okay, and so what you got to be able to do, and we can see here, he's able to get his foot up in the air pretty high before foot strike. Okay, so this is going to be his second step. Okay, notice here where his foot is as he's getting into frontside mechanics to prepare a foot strike. We'll even get into the third step here. Again, just not a lot of height as he's preparing for foot strike in terms of how the foot position is. So here we can see foot coming through, good amount of height. Then as he's striking the ground, he's doing a good job being able to get those hips through, which makes it so now he can get much more of a linear trajectory off of the ground. In comparison to here, when you're striking, if we don't get very much height, we don't get very much range with the foot coming through, you're very confined with how you strike the ground. So now as that foot's coming off the ground, we're not getting nearly as much extension forward. We're not nearly as open. And people will talk about how this ends up being a range of motion thing. Like, we need to be able to open up the hips, or open up maybe the spine, the back, whatever the case may be. And yeah, some of that stuff may help, but really it has a lot more to do with the mechanics. It has a lot more to do with the how behind the movement. We have to be able to understand what is it that we're trying to achieve in order to get the desired result. And really, and so this would really be considered much more of like a quick action too, right? Because what you also want to be able to understand is, like, we do not want to be super quick when we're going through the first few steps. Okay, so we're going to use a couple guys here. This is going to be a side-by-side. So we got Christian Coleman on the left, obviously one of the best starters in the world. And what we see here is while he is very effective at being able to pick up a good amount of distance per step here, he's still really trying to elongate with his body the best he can, right? And that it's not that we're trying to necessarily reach, because when we think about reaching, what, at least in my opinion, how I will mentally picture a reach would be getting my foot in front of my knee, right? So then as I'm striking the ground, I'm pulling more back here, right? So that would be considered more of a reach to me, is the more we can get the foot in front of the knee. And so this would even potentially be an example of that here. Let me see this, because I know this one, it looks like, yeah. So see how he's getting more like the toe in front of the knee? Okay, so that's going to be considered more of a reaching type of an action as he's going through. And we could even see, like, this is also not what we want to be doing, is trying too early to get too high up. Okay, when it comes to those first few steps, we have to be aware of what we're doing within our body and not end up going and immediately getting into these really, really far foot strikes, right? We're not trying to get a ton of distance per step from the very beginning. We have to be able to find that nice balance of how quick do we want to be, but also how much range do we want to be able to get. So typically, I mean, I like to use the yard markers, because the goal to me ends up being 4 steps and 5 yards. And that makes it easy for me. So if you want to go in and just measure out, even if you're coming out of the block start, I would still use that as a measure to be able to see if that's something that you need to be able to improve on, because I do think that that's an important measurement to be able to actually achieve. Just be aware of how much time are you spending off the ground, and when you're starting, what is going to be the right amount of difference between quickness in the legs, right? Creating that turnover. So we do want to be quick, but we don't want to end up sacrificing length because we're trying to be too quick, and then vice versa. We do want to have be picking up distance. We do want to have some length there, but we don't want to sacrifice the amount of distance that we're covering because we're trying to be too quick. So we have to be able to have some degree of a variation that makes sense for us in order to be able to have success as a sprinter. So hopefully this gives some clarification into what that should look like in order to make it so you could run just that much faster. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you like the information, go and click that thumbs up down below. Subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, you can leave those down below. I'm going to start continuing to put more time into doing these videos, making it so they could be more valuable for you, right? That's really my big belief here in the next few months, is that if we could really create some great value for you guys, it's going to really, I think, catapult you and us until the final few months here. And so yeah, I'm going to spend a little bit more time and really make it so the videos that we're providing can really give you a lot of great information, a lot of great ways to be able to improve as sprinters. So again, as always, like the video, subscribe, share, comment. That all helps us out a ton. Check out the information we have in the description in terms of programs and breakdowns and things that we could do to help you out. I really don't think that there's anybody just providing as much detail as we are when it comes to your overall ability to improve. And that's really what I do when it comes to like my strength, right? I always tell people when they come in and I work with them, it's like, I have I think unique ability, and you want to be able to isolate your strengths. Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are things that you are able to do well? And to me, I think one of my strengths is I can watch somebody go through a variation of different movements, and from that be able to isolate what are the main things they have to improve. Like, what are their weaknesses? Is it an ankle? Is it a hamstring? Is it what part of their body do they really need to be able to isolate and improve in terms of their performance? And so that's really what I try to do within the program, is take a look at the different parts of your running ability, right? Look at your start, look at your drive phase, look at your top end speed, and from that be able to say, okay, based off of this information, this is going to be the biggest bang for your buck. This is how you're going to really have a big improvement in terms of your overall performance when it comes to your speed, is to be able to fix this part of your drive phase or fix this part of your full contact time. This is really the main thing that's causing it, and then just go in more in depth from there. So that's, again, my philosophy when it comes to helping you is to be as specific as possible. I don't want to be general. I want to be very specific. I want to treat it like a sniper, right? I want to just go and just knock out one particular thing and then go to the next thing, right? And that's really how my program works. Is like let's start really making incremental improvements and specific improvements, things that can be very targeted in terms of when you could feel the change, you can get the change. That's going to make it so now you can have an improved performance and continue to work on that thing. And over a period of time, you're going to get a profound level of improvement. So again, check out the description to be able to find out more about how our program works. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave those down below. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.